Hello.
Hi
Welcome back.
everyone. Hello, hello.
Welcome back to Grand Park's Our LA Voices 2020.
We are your hosts for today. I am Mala,
And I'm Diosa.
and we are
And we are
podcast hosts and podcast producers.
Yes, and we are your hosts for today. And we're going to introduce the next act, the next performer for today. So we have Matthew Donovan, a community organizer, teacher, and founder of LA-based political collective, thefutureleft.com. And he will be teaching us how to make zines today. And so, Mala, I'm curious, do you have any experience making your own zine? Being a part of any type of zine creation?
So, I personally have never made a zine, but I appreciate the art of zine making and the art of storytelling through this type of really DIY, do it yourself, self-publishing, right? Because if you're a zine maker, you're self-publishing. And I did browse through some zines at Libros Schmibros at the original location in Boyle Heights in Mariachi Plaza. Shout out Boyle Heights, shout out Mariachi Plaza. So Libros Schmibros has like a really cool collection of zines. And I once was just kind of like browsing, all the different options and the titles. And I was looking through all the zines, and there were some really amazing educational zines about like, queer health, about like trans sexuality and sex education and healthy sexuality and things like that. And it was really beautiful because it was clearly like very needed information that probably at the time was not super accessible, like in schools or in your sex ed classes, what have you. So I feel like zines can be a really amazing source of community information, of documenting history, of storytelling, and of educating, especially around topics and communities that are marginalized or overlooked or are not really focused on in the literature. So zines are amazing. And I think a lot of people low-key make their own zines, even if you have like a blog or a Tumblr. There's like a way to do like a digital zine making in some ways. So yeah, I'm really excited for this workshop and talking to Matthew. We're going to actually have the opportunity to chat with him a little bit before the zine making starts.
Yeah, absolutely. I think zines are a great way to share knowledge. They're a knowledge share. They're accessible. You can make it yourself. It's DIY, as you said. And today in this workshop, will discuss the history of zines, zine making, the diversity of zines, and the importance of zine culture in today's society. And this workshop is presented by Solidarity for Sanctuary. And like Mala mentioned, we're going to have the opportunity to chat with Matthew Donovan for briefly until the workshop begins. And if you're just tuning in, just want to remind you, Matthew Donovan is a community organizer, teacher, and founder of LA-based political collective, thefutureleft.com. He publishes the Future Left's Voter Guide before every election, which is a local print and online zine to educate people in LA about progressive candidates and policies. So we're really excited and lucky to chat with him today, and that he's providing this workshop for all of you, all of our virtual attendees.
Yeah, I just love the diversity of our programming today. Can I just talk about how we're zine making, head wraps, beat making, dancing, a little bit of everything. And I love that. And for me, that is really just typifies Los Angeles. We have a little bit of everything here. And so I feel like this is our little charcuterie, our virtual charcuterie right now of LA culture.
Yes, we love a virtual charcuterie, a real charcuterie of all sorts. Yeah, there really is something for everyone. Yeah, right. Any chance to talk about charcuterie, we will take it.
We'll take it. I miss charcuterie. Can I just say, I miss going out and enjoying our beautiful like LA restaurants and our cute little dives and discovering adorable spots where we can just partake. There's just so much good food and good drinks and good people out here. And so we can do a little bit of that this weekend, in some way, shape, or form.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the great thing is that all of these activities are free and family friendly. So if you have your kids, you have your parents, you have your primos with you, your roommates, whomever you may live with, you can participate in all of these events with them. So you can create your zines together and, really just be creative and enjoy all of this programming this weekend.
Absolutely. And I think it's really nice to bring in the zine making option, because it's like a fun way to start journaling. I think it's really important for us to write down and record and document and archive our experiences throughout this global pandemic. And zine making can be a really fun, interactive way to document experiences, a family's experiences, what a child is witnessing in the world. So yeah, bring your kids, bring your family members, get your materials together so we can hear from Matthew and learn how to make these glorious zines.
Yes. And so without further ado, we're excited to have Matthew Donovan join us. He publishes the Future Left's Voter Guide Before Any Election, which is a local print and online zine to educate people. Hello, Matthew. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Matthew. I'm having a hard time hearing. Can you introduce yourself for everybody, please? I think we might need the mic turned on. So I think we're experiencing slight technical difficulties. That's okay. Figuring it out as we go.
Yes. And so if you want to check out more of Matthew's work, you can visit thefutureleft.com, which is where his zine is published. And you can check that out and all of the past work that he's done.
Absolutely. And remember that you can also visit the Music Center and Grand Park LA websites to look at the beautiful youth created art that has been submitted. Remember that that's also like a really dynamic part of this programming, to look at some of the visual art pieces that LA youth have been creating and submitting. So, yeah.
Let's check in and see if Matthew can hear us.
So podcasting, let's talk about that for a minute. Well, before we get into zine making.
Yeah, so we consider our podcast a digital archive where we archive the stories of artists and women of color especially, and the work that they're doing and what they're doing in their community, what we're doing, what's happening in our lives. And so we're really committed to archival work. So it's definitely an alignment to talk about zine making as archival work, because that's what we do with the podcast.
Absolutely. Yeah, an audio archive, a digital archive. For us, it's really important that we talk to the creators and the independent artists and the people here in LA on the ground at the beginning of their careers, when they're just starting. Our friends, our family, our community members, and we love bringing in folks who are just making beautiful art and really making an impact in their communities. So we've just been really, really blessed, to have access to such an amazing city filled with so much talent, and we can have it all archived on our little old podcast, Locatora Radio. We love that.
On a digital platform. Yeah, it's really exciting to be able to look back at our first interview and then see where we are 82 episodes later. And not only to see the growth in ourselves and the way that we have grown with the podcast, but also the work that all of the guests and interviewees that we've had.
Oh, absolutely. And we've loved the fact that the podcast, although it exists, the podcast itself exists online, right? Like all podcasts are digital, they're online. You stream them, you subscribe, you download, you listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or, you know, whatever your hosting platform is. But we've been able to like go out into the community with our podcast. We love taking the program, the show out of the studio and into the community. So like Diosa mentioned at the top of the show today, we've done hosting for the Levitt Pavilion and MacArthur Park. That's one of my favorite things about LA is there's just, well, historically, right? Not so much right now, but we love coming together. We love listening to live music, movie screenings at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery, you know,
Yeah.
our beautiful theaters downtown where we have like amazing events all the time, our festivals, our food trucks, like our block parties, our farmers markets, you know. We love all of that good stuff. And so we like to be a part of it as much as possible.
Yes, absolutely. And we've had, you know, the immense privilege of hosting concerts at the park, also parties at nightclubs, hosting our own parties that we've had all over LA, like in downtown LA and Boyle Heights, providing
Yeah.
workshops, working with Viva la Mujer and Las Fotos projects. So we've had an amazing time working with all of these LA based organizations the past 4 years. And yeah, outdoor events are a really big part of LA culture and LA life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we're just checking in on our zine making workshop and on Matthew, and it looks like we're getting things together. We're working out some of our technical difficulties, so we'll be good to go in a little bit. But in the meantime, we're just going to keep chatting because that's literally what we do. We do a lot of talking.
We do a lot of talking. Um, yeah, and you know, quick you know, thanks, acknowledgement, shout out to the team that's working behind this digital production. You know, there's a lot of work that goes into this. So thank you to them for making this all possible. Thank you to y'all for being patient and tuning in and watching all of the programming today.
Yeah, thank you so much. And remember to take as much time as you need to stretch your legs, walk around, you know. I personally love like tidying up and just accomplishing little tasks while I'm streaming something, while I'm watching something online. And
Mhm.
that's kind of what I'm going to be doing today too in between sets. Make sure you're drinking water. It's
Yes,
hot. Oh my God, let's talk about that. The heat wave that is here to
the
stay.
heat wave, right. Yeah, can I just say I had first experience yesterday of wearing a face mask out in public in the sun, and it was very intense. And I kept it on, of course, you know, we're supposed to, but it's definitely going to be difficult. So I definitely want to acknowledge that. Um, but you know, it is what it is. It's what we're doing to stay safe. But this heat is very intense.
It's very intense. My mom is in the other room keeping me company while I do this, right? And she just reminded me, you know, last night it was hot yesterday, but we had this gorgeous like summer night and it was so like
Mm,
breezy and balmy over here where I live. And I like those are my favorite LA nights, are those like warm summer nights
yes.
with a strong breeze and you can sit outside and enjoy your food and enjoy your family. And that's for me, that's like chef's kiss.
Yes. I love a warm summer night. I really hate having to wear a jacket over any outfit. And to me, I know it's summer
Same.
when I no longer have to wear a jacket with my outfit.
Absolutely. Outerwear is not my favorite. You know,
Right.
we are Southern
Same.
California girls, we're LA girls, and we like our skin to breathe, you know, we like some
Yeah.
movement.
Right. Right.
So, okay,
And yeah. And yes, tell me.
go ahead. No, go. You.
Well, I was just going to say that this heat is also earthquake weather. And we did experience an earthquake a couple days ago, which I did not feel. And I think you slept through it as well. But
I slept
that's
through it.
just another part of being in Southern California or California in general is just we have to deal with the earthquakes.
Oh yeah, it's been a very LA week, I would say. We've been extra
Yeah.
LA this week. The earthquake and the
Yeah.
heat wave, the double feature has been really nice.
Right.
So, okay, why don't we do this? Are there any
Mhm.
like local restaurants that you want to shout out that you used to in the before times that you would frequent, that you would eat at, that you've been thinking about, that you've been craving?
Yes, I really love La Guelaguetza. They're in Koreatown. I know they're near you, Mala. And
Mm-hmm.
I really love the Guelaguetza. They're doing takeout dining on the weekends or all week, but then they're also doing delivery on the weekends. And so that is something that I miss. So I'm waiting for the opportunity to be able to order a family pack for my family and go and pick it up and to support a local family owned business in LA. That's really an LA staple, I feel.
Definitely. Definitely. I agree completely. LA staples, restaurants. I've been thinking a lot about just like food trucks in general and just taqueros, and
Yes,
people are still working. People are still working. And we like to patronize our local taqueros and taco
of
trucks as much as we can. We had tortas yesterday from a taco truck down the street from us, so that was really nice. Um, but I'm
nice.
also missing like Boyle Heights in general. We spend so much time there. We
Yeah,
record there. We eat at First Street Tacos next door.
we do. First Street Tacos, House of Chelas.
Yes,
Yeah,
chelas.
I'm missing the brewery taco combination that is like typical
Right.
for me on an LA weekend.
That's a winning combo.
Yeah,
I also miss
right.
I miss going to our parks. Like, speaking of Grand Park, right? Like, on a typical weekend, or a typical summer is like, we're hiking, we're at the park, we're going
Hmm.
to the beach. We're just out and about. I cannot wait to be in like green spaces again with people. I want a
With
picnic
people. A picnic would be fantastic. Again, with the charcuterie. That is
with
like
the charcuterie.
another picnic staple.
My favorite
Yes,
park, besides Grand Park, obviously, because hello. Grand Park is gorgeous in the middle of downtown LA. It's such a nice, like, breath of fresh air in the middle of the hustle and bustle. And you have like so
absolutely.
much going on around Grand Park. You got courthouses and City Hall and all kinds of stuff going on. And the park is just in the middle of it. And I love that. But the other park that I love is Vista Hermosa, which just has the most gorgeous view of downtown LA. And you and I did like one of our first photo shoots at Vista Hermosa.
Yeah, the Vista Hermosa, yeah. That is also one of my favorite parks. Yeah, Grand Park is definitely a fave. I love going to the events. You know, you and I have been to an event there. They did El Grito. Oh, we went to the El
Yeah,
Grito 2 years ago where we saw our friend Crisol perform. I believe Los Tigres del Norte performed as well. It was like
I think so.
a really big deal for El Grito for Mexican Independence Day at City Hall and Grand Park. And so I love all
Yeah,
of the programming at Grand Park and MacArthur Park. Vista Hermosa is definitely a nice place to have a picnic. Um, there's just so much beauty in uh, the outdoor green spaces of LA.
yeah, absolutely. And just like a friendly reminder, right, to the folks out there that as things open up, I know some areas of California, some counties and some cities are like slowly opening up like their beaches and things like that. But we still want to be cognizant of keeping ourselves healthy and keeping social distance practices in place, and minding the health of our community. So when we do go back out into our beautiful public spaces, that we're still practicing all this really important public health, stuff that we've been doing: the mask, the distancing, washing our hands, not touching our faces, which has been really hard for me.
Mhm.
I touch my face all the time. I'm learning,
Me
right, through
too.
this like process.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm also learning, I'm trying to be cognizant of not touching my face, not fidgeting, with any part of my face or body. because yeah, just awareness. It's all about awareness and learning, and that's what we've been doing through this quarantine and this pandemic, is learning all these new terms, learning all these new practices.
Yeah. Ooh, and that being said, we have some updates from our team, our behind the scenes team that is just killing the game. We love you. Amazing work. Thank you so much. Please, everybody, go check out Samantha Helu's artwork on the Grand Park website. Samantha is an incredible journalist. She's an amazing writer and storyteller. She has focused a lot on LA history. She's written about La Cita, which is one of our favorite haunts and establishments. So go check out Samantha Helu's artwork on the Grand Park website and show her some love. She has been documenting gentrification in the city of Los Angeles. So you can go get some good learning in on the Grand Park website.
Yes, check that out.
Okay, cool.
someone else making work, it's either really personal, seems like really world. It really showed me what was possible for my own art, and I hope that my books will inspire readers to do the same. Why zines? Well, this is really what this presentation is about. It's really about it's really about why individuals need to create their own media space. So a hashtag for this, because we live in a hashtag world, is claim your own media space. This has a huge history connected to identities who have been underrepresented or even censored. And for some people, it is just an art practice. It's another version of the art world. For others, it's a way of bringing movements from these issues and these scenes and these communities that are built. People don't realize was a zine maker was George Orwell. George Orwell was the author of 1984, and also was a pamphleteer in his day. So he would hand out one of the pamphlets that was behind the revolution.
I can learn to understand you much better if I can.
Common sense. So George Orwell thought that it was key, and he says, "Show you don't need the publishers, you don't need anyone else. Although it is often built with people around you. One has a complete freedom of expression, including if one chooses the freedom to be scurrilous, abusive, seditious, or the other hand. So it does have some bad parts to it. You have to be aware that not all good zines are good, but it does give a little bit more freedom away from having to be part of this culture of expensive publishing that's kind of elitist and not accessible. There's tons of different types of zines. We'll focus on a few different types here. The obsessive zines are really famous. One of my favorites is baseball zines for people who hate baseball magazines. I really like the tongue-in-cheek aspect of a lot of zines where it's, it really is, it is really chewing up the caviar and spitting it at the elitist class sometimes at some points, because it is about liberating the medium itself as well as liberating the people that are a part of it. And obsession zines are often, known as fanzines. One of the most famous ones that a lot of people probably know is like the Degrassi fanzines, the Twilight fanzines, these types of things. Collection zines. These, when you go to art book fairs and when you go to zine fairs, a lot of times you see drawings and photo collections. Again, one of my favorite ones is kind of tongue-in-cheek, and it was called "Okay, Cupid Messages I Have Not Responded to." Things like this. One of my friends, Maya, had a zine called Boys of LA. It was kind of a tongue-in-cheek joke about boys, the dating world in LA. I always thought that one was kind of fun. Literature, illustrated art zines kind of are self-explanatory. Political zines, again, self-explanatory. And then personal zines or per-zines. These are maybe lesser known. These are zines usually about an individual. Sometimes they take the form of poetry or autobiography, and then experimental zines are usually for designers, artists, philosophers, and the like. Yeah. One of the most notable words of wisdom about the importance of your agency, your power, comes from the Riot Girl Manifesto. Something I want to say about the Riot Girl movement. It was very much whitewashed. when you think of riot girls, do not think of white girls. Riot girls, punk girls have always and have a long history of being women of color, including queer women of color, queer femmes, non-binary folks. It truly is a continuation of, and a modern representation of modern feminism, but it is no means what it was represented in Newsweek in the early 1990s. But what Riot Girl says is, because us girls crave records, books, fanzines that speak to us, that we feel included in and understand in our own ways, because we recognize fantasies of instant macho gun revolution as impractical lies meant to keep us simply dreaming instead of becoming our own dreams. This is the most important part, and thus to create a revolution in our own lives. That's really what zines are, and what they mean to me and what they mean to a lot of people is really about rejecting whatever kind of subculture you feel like you're supposed to be part of, and actually creating your own, and creating that in the form of a written zine. And so this brings us to zines as culture making. So zines, and I'll go to the next slide so it kind of explains, because it explains a little bit better. But zines as culture making, mainly because zines, I'm going to zoom in again, zines are an exploration of identity. And again, this is where histories and futures kind of come together, where you are somebody that is a part of a culture, and you know, it's difficult both for you to feel like you fit into the present, because you recognize that the tradition of your culture, tradition of your world, like somebody that's queer, for instance, such as myself, might think, oh, it's using the word queer in itself has been rejected and is seen as being negative by gay men because it was used as a derogatory term. And so part of creating the future of this identity was then to reclaim it. For women, reclaiming the word slut was a way of making sure that you had power over those words. And that's really what zine making is. It's about having control over the way that words and identities are formed, and also not only relying on the ideas that are around you and that already exist, but creating new ideas. And then so you take that exploration and you put that into a zine, and then that actually is where people start to build community around that. There is a zine started in San Antonio, and the culture was basically started around the rejection of the identity of Chicanx women who felt like they couldn't, they didn't feel like they fit in the punk scene, so they started creating their own zines, and from that zine being created, they now have a regular zine publication that's published 4 times a year, and people submit to them after they created their own zine. And it's all about the idea of the la mujer, and it's about basically creating that continual culture building activity, where the community not only forms, but a new culture emerges. And then that plays back into this continual cycle of identity being changed and formed, and identity being seen as that which is adaptable and ever changing. So some of the history behind zines, starting with fanzines, being changed by technology like Xerox copies, starting with mimeograph machines, then entering the counterculture movement of the 1960s, and then becoming more diversified in the 1980s, where from between the 1980s and the present, this is where zine fairs were finally created. And now we see that zines are not, they're on this new horizon of not only being physical, but they're also digital. They've taken form in what's called para-academia, or alternatives to traditional academia, in places like the New Center for Research and Practice, and new community spaces where like Women's Center for Creative Work in Los Angeles. We see that the community starts to expand beyond the political thinking until, and now new institutions are being formed based on these zines, based, and not just the zines, but the culture making itself. We can't go through this process because we don't have a lot of time, but I'll give you the short end of it. So first, you want to plan the zine. There's many ways to plan the zine. One of the biggest ways to plan the zine is to make sure that you understand and you do prototypes. You loosely pull it together, and you do tests before you start to mass produce. So part of the fun part is really just making it and planning it. We know that you can't plan creativity, but you can start to create habits in your life that make creativity a little easier. And so some of those things are listed here. One of the biggest things is following an idea, trusting yourself, and experimentation. And out of that will come innovation. And out of that, you will start to create your own process. And just trusting that cycle. One of the example ideas I had was for Solidarity for Sanctuary. And so basically they have their own mission, you have your own mission. So their mission is they're an organization that celebrates immigrant communities, raises awareness about the issues they face, and gathers resources to help them through the immigration process, as well as giving resources to working class people and undocumented people to find justice. So some of these are really core values, and so you'll have your own core values. So the audience and the voice they're searching for addresses those impacted by nationhood and facing xenophobia. So the idea that that was created as a brainstorm out of this was to look at the collection at the Brooklyn College undocumented zine library, where there is around 50 different zines that are centered on this idea, this idea of nationhood, undocumented status, and exploring all of these ideas, and putting all these zines together and finding what the themes are, what are the common struggles, and creating a zine called Histories of Undocumented People and Zine Making. I think that this would give a lot more significance to people that maybe don't feel like undocumented people have a place in zine making, but there's certainly a rich history that you could look into. And if you Google that, you can see the history. You can see the history of that yourself. There's a long list of different zines at Brooklyn College. So, and how you would make this zine real is you would have to focus on the format, and I always think that you should have some unique aspect to it. You don't have to, but this is just a recommendation. And as you start to explore more and more ideas with your own idea of zine making, you'll probably start to do this naturally. But I was saying that it would be good to make it both digital and physical, so people could have access to it, while linking in other zines and the library mentioned. so that everyone could also have zine. So making sure that all of the zines in this library are visualized. Part of the project would include people in the future adding their own stories to an office, so that this zine can continue to add to the canon of undocumented voices in the United States that are part of zine making. So this would be part of that whole process of that we covered earlier about identity formation or identity exploration, zine creation, and then community formation as well. And by those people adding their voices, it would continue to emerge and change and be moldable. This is another example. I can send anyone this idea if they're interested. We're gonna have to wrap up. Of course, the design is really important. I can send this to anyone, but this is how you actually need to go through. It's kind of slow, but you can do a small approach. And then really, you know, a lot of people that, you know, are part of zine making just create it. Present this, and once again, sorry about all of the difficulties. In the future, I hope that I can cover more in detail, and I look forward to seeing if anybody creates any of these things. So I'm going to start to wrap up here, and if anybody has any questions, please let me know. I'm going to give everyone a minute to ask any questions. And it's okay if no one has any questions. Okay. And then I'm just going to go through this last one, this last slide, because we do have a second here. Got to wait for this to catch up. So in this last slide, I really do want to emphasize that zines can also be digital. And with that said, there is a rich history of zine making, but there's also a future that's to come out of this. Okay, we have some questions coming in. Yeah, somebody asked, will I share this after? Yeah, we'll be sharing the presentation after. Does anybody have any other questions? Okay, goodbye, everyone. Thanks again. My name is Matthew Donovan. You can find me at thefutureleft.com or on Instagram. You can also find me in my personal Instagram, Matthew Donovan 2_. And enjoy the rest of our LA Voices. It was a privilege to be here. Thank you.